Spooky Friday, and today I'm going to focus on one of my favorite hidden LA gems. It's called the Greystone Mansion, and it's hidden up in the Hollywood Hills. So for a quick history lesson, oil tycoon Edward L. Doheny gifted this mansion to his son Edward Ned Doheny Jr. and his family. The estate has 55 rooms, 46,000 square feet, and covers 16 acres. That's crazy for the Hollywood Hills. It has concrete walls and covered with hand-carved limestone, making the walls 3 feet thick. The chimneys are even hand-carved. It cost $4 million to build in 1926, which is when they started building, and in today's money that nears $60 million. It's actually open to the public now. You can go walk around the gardens, you just can't go inside the mansion unless you book a private tour. The gardens are absolutely beautiful. And this is the view from the front balcony. I highly recommend a visit here. It's just very energetic and very intriguing. Check out part 2 for the tragic events that happened here. Welcome to part 2 of Spooky Friday, and today we're focusing on the Greystone Mansion. So just 5 months after moving in 1929, Doheny's secretary Hugh Plunkett let himself into the estate with his own key. This wasn't that weird considering he was a family friend and he worked for them. However, when Ned's wife Lucy got home, she found Ned and Hugh dead in a guest bedroom inside the house. It looked like Hugh shot Ned and then himself, so essentially a murder-suicide. As time went on, other theories have risen to the surface. Apparently the shot that killed Hugh was from behind, so that didn't add up if it was a suicide. Also, Lucy called the doctor before she called the police. She found the bodies at midnight, but the police weren't called until 2 a.m. By the time the police got there, the bodies had been moved, and Lucy said it was because the doctor tried to revive them. So one theory is that Lucy called the doctor to calm down Hugh, who was agitated and held a loaded gun, and then he ran into the room and shot himself and Ned. But the biggest theory is that Ned and Hugh were actually in a romantic relationship. Some people think Lucy found out and shot them both. Lucy continued to stay in the house until 1955. Check out part 3 for the hauntings here. Welcome to part 3 of Spooky Friday, and today we're focusing on the Greystone Mansion. So we've discussed the tragic, mysterious murder-suicide that took place at the mansion. Now let's focus on the paranormal aftermath. 2 rangers have quit because of their paranormal experiences. The ghost of a little girl is said to haunt Ned's daughter's room. Apparently on a sleepover in 1936, one of her friends fell out of the bedroom window to her death. When shooting National Treasure Book of Secrets, the sound man decided to leave his equipment on all night to see if he could catch anything. The next morning, they listened to the recording. In the middle of the night, there was a sound of a gunshot, then something tipping over, and then something being dragged across the floor. They checked around and nothing had been disturbed. Guests who have attended events here have seen a man in a black suit roaming the halls, and they've also seen the apparition of Ned Doheny himself. One guest reported seeing a female apparition, who they later identified as Lucy from the picture. This place is just absolutely incredible. I highly recommend a visit. If you peek in the windows, you might find someone staring back at you. Thanks for watching.
Did you know that North Korea used to abduct other countries' citizens to help train their spies? Between the 1970s and 80s, hundreds, if not thousands of people were abducted by North Korean agents. One of them was 13-year-old Megumi Yokota, who was abducted in 1977 while she was walking home from school in Japan. She was put on a boat and taken straight to North Korea, where she was forced to train spies to pass as Japanese citizens. The North Korean government has admitted to kidnapping Yokota, but said she died in captivity. They even sent an urn to her parents containing the ashes of someone, but her parents and others in Japan believe she's still alive. Senpako is a Japanese term that means 3 whites, referring to eyes that have whites on both sides and either above or below the iris. When the upper white is visible, it's said to be an indication of mental imbalance in people who are killers or psychotic, people like Charles Manson and Adam Lanza. When the white part shows below the iris, it represents a physical imbalance in the body, meaning people are accident-prone or destined for tragedy, such as Abraham Lincoln, or JFK, or Princess Diana, or Michael Jackson, or Prince. How this man chose his victim is terrifying. In 2019, a woman walking her dog was approached by a young girl who had come out of the woods and told her a horrifying story that a man had broken into her house in the middle of the night, killed her parents, and taken her back to his home, where he kept her underneath his bed until she had the chance to escape. The girl was 13-year-old Jamie Kloss, who had been missing for 88 days. Her captor was 21-year-old Jake Patterson, who had no criminal record. Once he was arrested, he confessed that he was driving by a school bus one day when he saw Jamie get on by her house, and without knowing who she was, how many people lived in the house, or anything else about her, he decided in that moment to kill her entire family and take her. There's a town where only sex offenders live. It's called Miracle Village, and it's located near Pahokee, Florida, basically in the middle of nowhere. Because of the types of crimes they committed, it's really hard for them to find work, and there are a lot of restrictions on where they can live. So in 2009, a pastor whose ministry helps reintegrate sex offenders into society founded the village. Now, it is the largest community of registered sex offenders in the United States with over 200 residents. The differences between male and female serial killers. Males typically kill for sexual gratification, whether that's psychological or physical, and their victim's identity matters less. They typically kill strangers. In contrast, 90% of female serial killers know their victims, and they tend to kill for practical or justifiable reasons, at least in their minds, with the most common motivation being financial gain.
So we know that a lot of death happened during the French Revolution, like roughly 40,000 people. In fact, there was so many people dying at such a quick rate that the government actually allowed the bodies to be skinned and turned into leather, so it would be made into a bunch of things like boots, pants, and jackets. It's actually said that men's skin was preferred over women's because women's skin was too soft to do anything with. You know, there's been a lot of turning humans into jewelry and clothes over history.